What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Good morning. Um, this one's gonna be entitled "The U.S. versus Fathers." Um, I've watched the um, the response to the guy who whipped his daughters for twerking. And I saw some other things, and I saw a few people speak out about this. So I want to expound on it. Um, One of them was Jay Miller Speaks Out, which is, if you haven't subscribed to him, you should. Um, a lot of times when a father does something, and another person who talked about it was Fearless 2005. If you haven't subscribed to him, you should. But one thing I see is a lot of times when it comes to fathers, we have a country who wants fathers but don't want fathers. And what I mean by that is this: they want fathers to come rectify the problem when it arises, and they want fathers to disappear, and that doesn't make sense. Like, everybody's seen this in their life. A kid could be acting up just because they acting up. And if it gets too bad, the first thing that somebody might say is, where is their father? Or maybe their father's not in their life. Because there's so many single mothers out here. But the problem with that is it doesn't completely make sense. It's a half truth. The other part of that is, what do you see? It used to be, what are you teaching this kid in the home? Because 9 times out of 10, the kid's gonna mirror the atmosphere at home. If it's rambunctious at home, they're gonna be rambunctious in public. They mirror off what their parents do. When I was a kid, I used to mess people up. Adults used to say, "Do as I say, not as I do." And what would happen? They would do as they say in the house, and then do what they do out in the world. So it's getting ridiculous to me, because at some point you gotta accept the fact that when fathers come around, or fathers in their lives, there's certain things fathers are gonna do that mothers not. When they was talking about him going too far whipping those kids, why? How did he go too far? They're alive. Ain't nothing wrong with them. I mean, it's not too far that they was on the internet shaking their ass as teenagers. That's not too far. That's that's okay. Okay, well, let it be. If that's okay, whipping them on the internet should be okay. You know, because if they was to get pregnant, because they was getting attention for shaking their ass on the internet, was the first thing they'd say. If them girls had their father in their life, they wouldn't have been pregnant at 15, because they supposed to be 14 right now, right? Is the mother's not even in this equation? Is what I'm saying. Like, who you think? I mean, for all I know, the mother could have been setting up the camera. But when it comes to the discipline, guess who got to do it in public? Guess who got to be seen doing it? Just like when Jay Miller Speaks was talking about when old girl got knocked out on the bus, everybody, oh, you shouldn't do that. And this is the problem, especially the problem with, and I'm gonna put this in twofold. Um, and I did get that idea from Fearless. So I did. Fearless talks about discrimination, like they treat boys differently than girls, and he's right. But I'm gonna put it in two ways. When you're dealing with girls, they constantly give excuses for their behavior. Like, you should, she's a girl, she could do this, she could do that, she could do this. Well, if you constantly excuse bad behavior from a person, they're gonna start to believe that either that they can get away with that bad behavior just because. And what happens is, if they have kids, they'll teach those kids that they can get away with those bad behaviors just because they've been getting away with bad behavior. Which, then when they teach this to a young girl, it doubles the problem, because it's worse than the mother. When you say it's a boy, it doubles the problem of that boy getting his head knocked off, because society don't view it the same. Um, and on the flip side, it's kind of excusing lying, manipulating, um, playing the victim. Excuse me, because these are all the reasons why. And I hate to say it this way, that when sometimes when a woman says something or a female says something, you got a faction of people that automatically just believe it wholeheartedly, and then you got your faction of people that automatically be like, she's lying. I don't care what she say. I don't care what's talking about. Just like the lady who got her kid, who kid got killed in Georgia. Half the people like, that's sad, man. Them kids need to go to jail. Another half like, something ain't right. Which something ain't right mean she lying. And when her daughter comes out and say she think that she got the baby shot, it's like, woo, yeah, she probably lying. But we gotta I mean, we gotta put all the cards on the table. You can't blame fathers for everything, because when you blame fathers for everything, you blame mothers for nothing. And I'm not trying to say we need to just blame. What I'm trying to say is, as a father, I can acknowledge and be accountable for my mistakes as a parent. But I will not and cannot and refuse to be accountable and responsible for my son's mother's mistakes as a parent. It's not going to be like, it's my fault he's this way, it's my fault he's that way, it's my fault. Like, whoa, those ain't even my characters. I don't even teach that stuff. That is not anything that I do. That's what they do. But see, you're the father, so why I'm saying the United States versus fathers is because it's kind of ironic that it's all, when it boils down to it, it's always the father's fault, which means the responsibility of them being, any child being a functional, successful adult in society is going to be the father's responsibility or fault. But fathers can never take credit for it, and at the same token, most fathers lose in custody battles because they're fathers. So if you award in custody to people who will never be responsible, who never be accountable, who never be able to take the blame when they have the majority of the time to raise the child to become an adult, you should have kind of seen stuff like this coming. Because even in a court case, you get Christmas vacation, spring break, the summertime. Roughly close to 4 months. So for them other 8 months, what's going on? So you mean to tell me 8 months a year, you got one parent, 4 months a year, you got another parent. But the parent who's responsible, who's most responsible, is the parent who has 4 months a year, or the parent who's across town who gets them every other weekend. You get what I'm saying? And for the summers and all that stuff. So who we talk about law, and possession is 9/10 of the law. Whoever possesses something the most is the person most responsible. So in this case, if fathers are going to be held to this high standard of parenting, then fathers need to have the custody for the majority of the time. Because I see nothing wrong with what the guy did. What am I supposed to cry? I'm supposed to cry for those girls because they scream real loud? Did anybody say anything about, okay, they's out there shaking their ass on the internet? They're out there putting their sexuality as early teenagers out there for the world to see. They advertising like prostitutes. And they're doing it behind their parents' back. And you gotta, and the stupidity of this is, when you put something online, somebody's gonna see it. It's gonna get back around to somebody somehow. And a lot of times, even with kids on the internet, they really believe that their parents not gonna find this stuff. Like, you using your parents' computers, you know, you're using the internet, you're sending this stuff out to your friends who are actually friends with your, whose kids are friends with your parents. So eventually, it's gonna circle back around when somebody goes through somebody's room and sees something that shouldn't, that they feel like their kids shouldn't be posting. So if it gets back to your parent, it gets out into the world. But then again, a father's reaction is the father's fault. It's not the father's fault. You know, fathers do what fathers do. Fathers make sure you understand that the world is not your friend. And I'm gonna treat you like the world treats you, because I need to get you prepared for the world not being your friend. And when that becomes, and since that's become a big problem, you've noticed a lot of young and sometimes old people who are in a situation like this are never really prepared for the world, because they really think the world is their friend. And the world will excuse all their bad behaviors when somebody's like, no, they don't. But man, I'm going to get out of here with that one. I probably took too long. So y'all have a good one. Peace.